So once there was a monk. hmm, Monk stories are very interesting. And he went to his master and he said, Master, I have a question for you. And the question is, I want to know what is the value of my life. And as most masters do, they rarely give an answer directly. So the master says, go to the garden and pick up a stone and come back, and I'll tell you what to do with it. So he goes to the garden, picks up a nice stone, and he comes back, shows it to the master. So the master says, now you take the stone and go across the street to the house and ask the lady who stays there, what's the value of the stone? So he does what the master says, goes across the street to the house and shows the stone to the lady and says, I want to sell this. How much for the stone? She just looks at it like it's an ordinary stone and she says, okay, I'll give you 2 rupees. Of course, this story is set in India, that's why rupees. Okay. So then he takes the stone as instructed by his master back to the master and he says that she says, she'll give me 2 rupees. And he says, okay, now you take the same stone and go to the shopkeeper and ask him how much for the stone. So he goes to the shopkeeper, shows the stone, and shopkeeper sees the stone and says, like, this looks like nice and round, can be used as a paperweight. And he says, I'll give you 200 rupees. And he is like a little surprised. And then he comes back to the master and says, the shopkeeper is saying 200 rupees. Saying, okay, now you go to the, take a bus and go to the city and go to the museum and show the stone to the art director there. But before you do, put the stone in a nice box and then you show it to him. So he goes to the museum, meets the art director, shows the box, and he says, "The stone, how much will I get for it?" So the art director looks at it and sees that, this seems to be nicely packed. And he looks at the monks. He thinks that it must be something really ancient. And he says, I'll give you 2 lakh rupees for it. And now he's like really shocked as to the value of the stone seems to be keep going up. It's the same stone. So he takes the stone back to his master and he says, Master, he's saying he's willing to give me 2 lakh rupees for it. And the master says, okay, now you go to the art collector and who collects artifacts, and this time you put the stone in a glass case, wear your special monk robes, and then you present that stone to him and ask him how much he'll pay for it. So he goes to the art collector and very carefully places the box, the glass box, on the table and says, how much for this stone? The art collector says, okay, this looked like something significant, and this special monk who's here, so maybe I will give you 20 lakh rupees. Of course. And then he goes back to the master and he says, he's so this stone is from rupees 2 to 20 lakhs. What is really the value of the stone? And how is this linked to the value of my life? And the master says, the value of anything, including your own life, is the value you give it. So, of course, this is just a story, but this highlights something very important, which is what is the value of my life? And usually, when we look at the value of our life, we see the value of our life based on the amount of money we are making, the salary, our designation, our popularity, number of likes, number of subscribes, number of, it's always associated with some kind of a number, a turnover, maybe. And that's when we feel that, okay, I have made it in life. I'm not a loser. I am someone significant. And that's my social status or social standing. But really, is our value just a number? Whether, even if it's a good number, not that I'm disregarding all of that. What is it that gives value to our life? And if I were to look at it from my own personal experience, I think one of the best indicators for value of life is, do you feel like really getting up in the morning? How do you get up in the morning? Do you like to jump and say like, okay, come on, life, here I come? Or is it like you want to crawl out of bed, oh, another day? Mm. And personally, from my experience, once upon a time, I used to be a chartered accountant with a corporate job and all of that. And not that I'm saying any of that is wrong, but it didn't give me any meaning. It didn't fulfill me. I didn't find any meaning and joy in it. So the value of my life, or I guess anyone else's life, is the joy, the meaning, the fulfillment, the satisfaction that you derive from your daily lived experiences. Now that daily lived experiences could be anything. Maybe the roles that you're playing in life, maybe the work you're doing, but it must give you some meaning, some creativity, some satisfaction, some joy, which essentially means that you must try to become the most unique you, because so society tends to educate us and tries to use that education to produce people who can be used for the economic system. It's not really interested in what is in our unique self expression. So it's like a cookie cutter education, so to speak. And if you have to find meaning and joy in life, then you have to become the most unique you. You have to find your most unique self expression, and then you get fulfillment and joy. And it's better if you can do this at a younger age. Give yourself time, space to explore, to experiment, to do your own things, because as you grow older, there are greater responsibilities. You have EMIs to pay, and other responsibilities to take care of. So it becomes a little difficult. Not that it's impossible, it becomes a little difficult. But it's important that we experiment and take risk in life. So I'll end with a quote by Pablo Picasso, and he says, "My mother thought if I joined the army, I would become a general. If I joined the church, I would become the Pope. Instead, I became an artist and I became Picasso." Namaste. Thank you.